repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell?
What was your question?
Do you oppose the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell?
Repeal? No, I don't.
There was some new reporting about it this morning.
No, more false reporting.
There you have Donald Trump's nominee for Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, absolutely denying on the Hill today that he was opposed to the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which of course allowed gay Americans and lesbians to marry in this country and also serve in the military and not have to hide what their sexual identity happens to be. Now, he was confronted about it thanks to new reporting from CNN showing that he has repeatedly criticized policies allowing gay people to serve openly, calling them part of a Marxist agenda. So in his 2024 book, The War on Warriors, and in subsequent media promotions this year, Hegseth described both the original Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy and its repeal in 2011 as a gateway and a camouflage for broader cultural changes that he claims have undermined military cohesion and effectiveness. In a 2015 appearance on Fox News, Hegseth made similar remarks, arguing that policies like repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell erode standards in favor of political goals. Take a look.
What you're seeing is a military right now that's more interested in social engineering led by this president than they are in war fighting. So as a result, through Don't Ask, Don't Tell and women in the military and these standards, they're going to inevitably start to erode standards because they want that one female special operator, that one female Green Beret, that one female Army Ranger, that one female Navy SEAL, so they can put them on a recruiting poster and feel good about themselves. And it has nothing to do with national security. And these warfighters are realizing they're just going to start ticking away at the standards until they get one.
So Hegseth also writes in his book that he was initially ambivalent to the Obama administration's repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, but came to regret his passive stance, describing the repeal as a, quote, breach in the wire that opened the door for broader cultural and ideological changes in the military. He says he regrets this passive nature that he engaged in, not because I have a newfound axe to grind with gay Americans, but because I naively believed that's what ending Don't Ask, Don't Tell was all about. Once again, our good faith was used against us. The left never gives an inch and always takes a mile. So his argument is, no, it's not that I'm against gay people serving in the military. It's that by giving an inch to the left, that kind of opened a Pandora's box of all these other cultural issues that he's not in favor of.
Yeah, but what he's actually saying is, no, I'm not against gay people serving, I'm against trans people serving.
Yeah.
And women serving in combat roles, two things he has actually said.
Yep.
So when you ask him, okay, what cultural things are you worried about? How does it lower standards? He has no answer. So it wasn't about lowering standards because he can't point to a single standard that was lowered. It's about, I don't want trans people serving the military and I don't want women in combat roles. He's been very clear about it before. It's now an unpopular position, so that's why he's backpedaling.
Well, it's fascinating that, look, I think it's a bad idea to have this super conservative and like exclusive idea of who should be allowed in the military, especially at a time when the United States military is having a very difficult time recruiting people who want to serve in the military, right? And it's not just that, there's also an issue with people who aren't healthy enough to join the military even if they want to, which means that the standards are still pretty high, and that's a good thing. I have no problem with them keeping the standards as they are. But there is an issue with the lack of soldiers in our military. And by the way, a lot of people don't want to join the military for other reasons, including our war machine, and they just don't want to contribute to that. But with all of that in mind, he argues, Hegseth does, that subsequent woke policies like allowing women to serve in combat roles and transgender members to serve openly are the negative consequences. So you're absolutely right, Cenk. He is on the record as saying that. He refers to it as social justice tinkering that started with Don't Ask, Don't Tell being reversed or repealed. Notably, Hegseth doesn't seem to reference any specific examples in his book to support his argument that gay people, women, or trans people openly serving has somehow hurt the military. Still, in an interview with Ben Shapiro this summer, Hegseth had this to say.
It's just like everything else the Marxists and the leftists have done. At first it was camouflaged nicely, and now they're just open about it. But it started with Clinton under Don't Ask, Don't Tell, trying to change that policy. And then when he did, there was a lot of criticism on that. The original people who pushed for the overhaul of Don't Ask, Don't Tell are no longer public about it and regret it, because it was really just a costume for a trans agenda pushed into the military. Which is full on, by the way, inside the ranks. You talk to people, you don't have to go very far to find someone that says, well, I've got a trans member of my unit, and that means we have a lot more counseling on pronouns and you can't, no jokes. And because the threat is so serious, it permeates the culture of units. Everyone's, most especially commanders, walking on eggshells.
I mean, it's just really fascinating that he's like focusing on the deterioration of the military and stuff like that, considering the allegations against Hegseth himself and his behavior, right? So when he was, the leader of, I forget the name of that,
veterans group.
Yeah, that veterans group that he was the leader of. There were two separate whistleblowers who had reported on his conduct as the leader of that group, and how he was drinking and being irresponsible and making the women in the group feel incredibly uncomfortable. It's like he puts himself up on this pedestal of moral character while judging the moral character of others when they haven't done anything wrong. They just happen to be who they are as people.
Yeah, so it could affect morale, right? If there's just trans people in the military. Interesting. Well, it could affect morale if the group you're running is divided into party girls and non-party girls. And when you take them to a strip club and then you try to get up on stage because you're so drunk and dance with the strippers. And then much, much more importantly, one of the women you're with and that you're the boss of gets sexually accosted there. And then you try to minimize that and blame her for it. And that creates an issue within the department, because then all women lose morale there, thinking we're not at all protected in this veterans group. Yeah. So those things are so much more important than, oh my God, I saw a trans person and all of a sudden I lost all morale. By the way, this giant problem in the military about trans people, they're 0.6% of the military. Wow, the military is taken over by trans people. And second of all, look, and these opinions of his, sometimes they'll say, oh, that was from a long time ago. He wrote that in 2024.
Exactly, yeah.
Like that's literally this year, okay? And this is a side note, but every time anybody says Marxist, it's nails on a chalkboard for me. Which Marxist? Bill Clinton and Barack Obama that passed those bills or laws and regulations? Marxist?
It just sounds scary, right?
Come on.
It's their version of fascism. But anyway.
Well.
Yeah, but I do want to move on to one final thing, because look, there are a lot of people on the right who are providing cover for Pete Hegseth. There's no question about that. We've shown you some examples of people on the right who haven't been providing cover for Hegseth, and I give them credit. There was a contributor to Fox News where Hegseth works, and she said that she just doesn't feel that he would be a good fit. But when you go over to Newsmax, there are other conservatives who feel the same. Let's watch.
Pete Hegseth is the nominee for Secretary of Defense. And yeah, I don't think he's qualified. And I actually don't think he's going to get that job because, well, of a lot of things, but mostly this. He suggested we watch the Megyn Kelly interview. So, well, I did.
You paid her. So was it a substantial settlement? And why did you pay her?
I paid her because I had to. Or at least I thought I did at the time. I was newly married. Listen, she got lawyers that reached out to mine and said, if you don't come forward and if you don't pay money, then ultimately we're going to out him. I did it to protect my wife, I did it to protect my family, and I did it to protect my job.
Okay, that's blackmail. He was blackmailed, and that's a problem, and that's why he can't be Secretary of Defense. I'm sorry, he's a very talented guy. I said that last week. Big future doing something, but he can't be Secretary of Defense. It's obvious. Donald Trump, love the guy, but he has made mistakes before, and well, especially when it comes to the Pentagon.
Greg, you know, I'm not a big fan of Greg Kelly. I'm not a fan of him at all, in fact. But I gotta give him credit because earlier this week we had covered a story about how Donald Trump was not happy with the critique and criticisms toward Pete Hegseth by Greg Kelly, and that Newsmax got a warning about it. But Greg Kelly apparently doesn't care. He's not backing down and is continuing to pretty aggressively go after Hegseth.
Greg Kelly would have made my top 10 list of people I am least likely to give credit to.
Right.
But here we are in this topsy-turvy world, and they threatened termination for anyone who criticized Hegseth. And that brother showed some courage right there and didn't obey. So tip of the hat, okay? Nice job, way to have some fortitude, right? Now, I actually partly don't agree with him on the reasons why. It's not blackmail when you get sued and you settle, right? I think he's using the wrong terminology. It's not surprising that I would disagree with Greg Kelly on anything, right? But earlier when he was talking about, hey, MAGA, watch out, he's actually a neocon. That part is definitely true.
100%, yep.
Right, and so he brings up some important points, but most importantly, the willingness to stand up against Trump and his bosses. Okay, I haven't seen that from the right wing, at least in terms of Fox News, Newsmax, et cetera, in a while. So I can always respect that. And he went on to talk about how Jim Mattis made the wrong decisions at the Defense Department, and that was a Trump appointee. And Trump does acknowledge he has a lot of people that he's very disappointed in, right? And so that were his top picks. So all right, Greg Kelly, you got one there. Way to stick up for what you believe.
Totally agree with you on that.
Thanks for watching. If you become a member, you get to watch all this ad-free, except for, of course, this ad. Still, hit the join button below.